Let's embark on a nostalgic journey to the heart of New York City, where 6 friends shared laughter, tears, and countless cups of coffee. We're diving into the world of Friends to recreate the iconic Central Perk logo using Adobe Illustrator. Prominently featured in the show, this emblem is more than just a sign above the famous coffee house. It's a symbol of friendships and unforgettable moments shared by the main characters in one of their most iconic settings. Featuring a vintage coffee cup enveloped by the warm embrace of steam, the logo captures the essence of Central Perk as a welcoming hangout spot. Its earthy colors and playful design reflects the coffee house's cozy and inviting atmosphere. The term Central is depicted in a robust sans serif and geometric typeface, offering a stark contrast to Perk, which is rendered in a more whimsical and playful font style. So grab a cup of coffee and let's create the Central Perk logo and make Monica proud by getting every detail just right.
Let's do it.
We'll start by creating the green plate of the logo, which houses the middle section of the design. First up, let's set our canvas. Open Illustrator and create a new document. I'm going for a 1920 by 1080 pixel artboard, giving us plenty of space. From there, type Friends Central Perk logo as the name of the document and keep the units set to pixels and the color mode to RGB. Once you're done, hit Create Document. Grab the rectangle tool, which is M on the keyboard, and draw a 480 by 190 pixel rectangle on the artboard. And then once we've done that, with our rectangle selected, let's go ahead and change the stroke width to 4. And then we want to change the colors. So for the color of our square or our rectangle here, let's go ahead and double click on this. And we're going to change this to R, which is 1, G, which is 74, and B, which is 55 for this nice green here. And then for the color of our stroke, let's go ahead and double click on our stroke. We're just going to change this to, or let's keep this at black. So let's go ahead and move this all the way to the bottom here and then click on OK. Go over to the transform panel and we're going to round the corners up by selecting this over here and pressing 90 on the keyboard, making sure that all the corners are linked. And then from there, let's go ahead and create the effects. So with this selected here, go to the appearance panel, and then we're going to go ahead and create a new stroke. And then we're going to change this color to something else. So let's go ahead and create a new color here. So let's create a new swatch. And for this swatch here, let's go ahead and change this to RGB and make sure the R is 255. The G is 247 and the B is 214 for this nice beige color here. And then we can go ahead and select that for our stroke. Make sure that our stroke now here is set to 16 points. Let's go to Effects, go to Distort and Transform, select Transform here. And then for the horizontal scale here, we're going to change this to 105% to make it a little bit larger. And then over on the move section here, we want to change the vertical to 8, just to move it up or down slightly, like so. Let's go to Effects, Blur and Gaussian Blur. And we want to increase the radius until it looks something like this. So something like 35 will do. Click OK. And now we want to remove the blur effect from the outside of our shape. And the way we do this is via a clipping mask. So to do this, let's go ahead and copy this shape. Press Ctrl C to copy this. And then let's go ahead and paste this in place. So press Ctrl Shift V to paste it in place. And then having both shapes selected, we want to go to Object, and then select clipping mask, which is down here, and then make. Now to complete this design, let's go ahead and create 2 screws. So using the ellipse tool here, we're going to create a white ellipse with a 3-point stroke. So let's go ahead and draw this out. So holding Shift on the keyboard to create a perfect circle. Let's draw the perfect circle out here. And we want to change this circle to 19 by 19 over in the properties panel here. And then using our pen tool, if we zoom in to our stroke here, what we can do is you can draw a straight line by holding Shift on the keyboard to create the middle of the screw. Just extend that line there like so. And then what we can do from here is we can go ahead and move this over to this side here. I'm just going to rotate this by 90 degrees by holding Shift on the keyboard and then press Control C on the keyboard to copy it, Control V to paste it, move this over to the other side. Now let's go ahead and create the ribbon. So over to the rectangle tool here by pressing M on the keyboard. We're just going to draw out a rectangle. And again, we can go to the properties panel here and specify the dimensions, which is going to be 360 by 130, like so. And then we're going to color this in with the beige color that we created previously and make sure that the stroke is set to 4 points. Just going to place it above our shape here. In fact, let's go ahead and make sure that this shape here is also set to a stroke of 4 points as well. So let's go ahead and double click inside here, go to the appearance panel, and under the stroke, let's go ahead and make sure that the align stroke is set to inside the shape. And now when we click out, you can see that the strokes are the same. So with the rectangle selected, go to the appearance panel here, and we're going to add some new effects. So add a new effect, go to warp, and we're going to choose arc here. And then we're just going to bend this to 40%, like so. And then we're going to add another warp effect. So go to effects, warp, and this time choose arc upper, apply the new effect. And this time for the bend, we're going to change this to 20%, like so. Make sure that the arc upper effect is placed on top of the original warp effect like that, and you'll end up with a ribbon shape like this. So let's go ahead and place this on top of our first shape. Next, let's go ahead and use the pen tool, making sure that we've got the same settings for our ribbon here. We're just going to draw out an end for our ribbon. So let's go ahead and draw this out. So just a curve here. And let's point this out like that. And then a curve here like that. And remember, you can use the direct selection tool here, which is A on the keyboard, to change the way that your anchor points are looking. So we can just go ahead and move these down like so. And just to make things look a little bit neater, what we can do is with this shape selected, go to stroke, and we're going to change the cap to a round cap. And we are also going to change the corners to a round join, just so that we don't get those harsh corners over here. So once we've done that, let's go ahead and select this. And we're going to add a gradient. So go to the gradient panel here, make sure that we've got our shape selected. And we're going to change the gradient of our color to something a little bit different. So let's go to our shapes, our colors here. And let's make sure that the darker shade is set to this end. And of course, we can go ahead and change the way that our gradient looks, like so. And then once you're happy with that gradient, let's go ahead and right click on this, arrange, and send this to back. And then we're going to go ahead and do the same to the other side. So let's go ahead and copy this. So press Control C, Control Shift V to paste it in place. Let's right click on this, transform and reflect vertically, and move this to the other side. And then also, of course, we want to also arrange and send this to back as well. So once we've done that, let's go ahead and select both of these. Make sure that they're aligned to the center. Press Control G to group them together. And then with all of these shapes selected, go ahead and align those to the center as well, just to make sure that everything is centrally aligned. By the way, this video is brought to you by Envato Elements, the largest unlimited creative subscription in the world. Get seriously creative and click on the link to learn more. I think we can all agree that Friends just wouldn't be Friends without Central Perk. Whilst the Central Perk we see on the TV show was a studio set and not an actual coffee shop, the popularity of the show has led to the creation of Central Perk themed coffee shops and pop-up experiences in various locations around the world. More recently, however, the coffee shop has finally been given a more permanent, real-world location in Boston. It's selling its own Friends-themed coffee, ranging from "How you doing?" medium roast to "We were on a coffee break" dark roast. Inside, you can find a replica of the iconic orange couch, along with a neon sign that says "The One With," which is a nice little reference to the formatted titles of each episode. So now that you're more familiar with the actual coffee shop, let's continue with the logo and create the coffee mug designs.
Ooh, the next part's the best.
To draw the coffee cups, let's go over to our rectangle tool here. We're going to use a white color and a stroke of 1 pixel. Draw a rectangle out, and we're going to go to the properties panel and change the dimensions to 316 by 300. And then we're going to draw out an ellipse. And we're going to do the same thing as well over here. We're going to change the dimensions of this to 316 by 45. Then we're going to place the ellipse somewhere near the middle of our rectangle. And then we're going to change the corners of our rectangle here, going to the transform panel. And we're going to change the corners to 130, just to round the corners out. And then with all of these shapes selected, go to the Pathfinder tool here and select Divide. Then go ahead and ungroup all of these shapes. Select the top shape here, and we're going to delete that. Next, we're going to use the ellipse tool again. We're just going to draw out a smaller ellipse for our coffee. And then we're going to select all of these, make sure everything is aligned to the center, like so. And then we're going to use our pen tool here, making sure that we've got no color selected and a stroke thickness of 16. Just going to zoom in here and draw out the bottom of our coffee cup. So just a round shape like that. And remember, we can use the direct selection tool to change the shape of our handle. And for this stroke, we want to make sure that the stroke is a round cap. I'm just going to round this out a little bit more so that it's more like the center of our cup. And then once you're happy with that shape, let's go to Object, Expand the fill and the stroke, just so that we've made this into a shape. I'm just going to move this a little bit down here like that. And then we're going to select this shape and our coffee cup shape, go to Pathfinder, and then select Unite. And there we've got our coffee cup shape. Right, now from here, what we're going to do is we're going to color this in. So going over to the appearance panel here, we're going to fill this cup with a beige color. So this beige color here is going to be a new swatch. So going over to RGB we're going to change the color to R, which is 255, G, which is 226, and B, which is 181. Click OK. And then we'll apply that to our fill. And then next we're going to create an inner glow. So go ahead and select the effect, add new effect here. And then we're going to go over to stylize and select inner glow. And for the inner glow color, we're going to choose a color which is 244 by R, which is 244, G, which is 159, and B, which is 81. Let's change that. Click OK. And then the opacity is set to 100, the blur is set to 25 pixels, and the mode is set to normal. So let's go ahead and create a new swatch for the inside of our cup here. So up here, let's create a new swatch by clicking on the new swatch button. And we're going to go over to the color mode, which is RGB. And we're going to change this to 244 by 159 and 81, which is the B. So R is 244, G is 159, and B is 81. And that should be the same color as the dark edges of our cup here. Click OK, and that will apply that to the top of our cup. And then we can also add a stroke to this. So let's add a 4-point stroke, which is going to be black. And we'll add the same to our cup here. So let's add a black 4-point stroke here as well. And then for our stroke, let's go over to the stroke panel and make sure that the cap is set to a round cap and the corners are set to a round join. And that will make sure that any sort of sharp corners that we have over here will appear much nicer and rounded and not as harsh. Let's go ahead and do that. And for our coffee here, let's go ahead and change this into a color. So first of all, let's add a 4-point stroke to this as well, just so that everything is unified. And we're going to add a new swatch. So let's go ahead and add a new swatch here. Make sure the color is set to RGB. And for this color, we're going to change this to R, which is 71, G, which is 32, and B, which is 25. And this will be a dark brown color like so. Make the stroke to 23. So let's go ahead and change this to 23. And we're going to use the pen tool to draw out the handle of our cup. Go to Object, Expand, and then there we have our shape. So let's go ahead and color this in the same color as our coffee mug and just draw out a stroke on the inside of our handle. And we want to change the color to the darker beige color that we created previously. Change the stroke to something a little bit thicker, something like 4 points. Then go to Effect, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Change the blur to something like 10 pixels. Click OK. And we can make any adjustments to the shadow like so. It's just moving this closer to the edges. So let's go ahead and change the blur a little bit more. So over in the appearance panel here, make sure that we've selected the blur. And we're going to click on blur here. And we're just going to add a little bit more blur to the radius like so. So something along the lines of, let's say, 16. And now we want to mask the blur that's outside of the handle. So let's copy this handle shape. So press Ctrl C on the keyboard. Press Ctrl Shift V to paste it in place. Select all of the handle shapes here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to Object, select Clipping Mask, and Make. Double click on the handle. Make sure that the handle shape is selected, not the stroke with our blur on it. So make sure that's selected and go to Add New Stroke. And we're going to add a black stroke, which is about the same width as our cup, which is 4 points. So once you've done that, Let's go ahead and double click out of that. And then we're going to select this, right click, arrange, and send it to back. Increase the stroke points here, and then just add some steam coming out of our coffee, like so. Now for this, make sure that the oval is selected. Once you've drawn out all the steam, let's go ahead and select all the strokes here. We're going to go to Object, Expand Appearance to make them into shapes. And we're going to color them into the light beige color that we created before. And we're going to add a black stroke to all of them, which is about 2 points. Group these together. And we're going to position this next to our shape. And then we're going to right click, arrange, send to back. Once you've done that, let's go ahead and duplicate this cup. So press Ctrl C, Ctrl Shift V to paste it in place. And we're going to move this over to the other side. Right click, transform, reflect in the vertical. Right click, arrange, send to back. For this tutorial, we will be using 2 fonts that you can find right here on Envato Elements. What I like about Envato is how quickly you can find professional looking fonts for any design project. I personally use it a lot because it helps me save time when I'm stuck or if I have a creative block.
See? Now this is why I keep notepads everywhere.
We'll be using the talking font shown here for the central text, and as for the perk text, we'll be using the Torpont font shown here. You can find a link to both of these fonts from Envato Elements in the description below. Font choice, much like coffee, is all about personal taste, so feel free to experiment. Select the type tool, and we're going to type in Central. So let's go ahead and change the font size here to 170. And then we can change the font up here to Talking Font. If we go over to the character panel here, go to Open Type, let's deselect Standard Ligatures. And then what we're going to do is we're going to apply a stroke to the letters here as well, just to thicken it up a little bit. So 4-point stroke will do. And then let's go to Object, Expand, and then go to Object, Expand again to make sure that all the texts are in one shape. So to do that, let's go to Pathfinder and unite all the shapes like so. We'll make this into a red color. And then on top of this, we'll add a black stroke like so. So go to Effect, go to Warp, and then we're going to arc this to something like 35%, like so. Might need a little bit of adjustment. So go back to our type tool here. Add perk using the type tool. Now for the font that we're going to use for perk, we're going to use Torpont. So let's go ahead and change that to Torpont. And then we're going to go to Object, Expand, and expand that. But we're just going to add a little bit of shape to the perk text here. So using the rectangle tool here, we're just going to add a rectangle on our P here, like so. And we're going to do the same for the E, the R, the K. And then once you're happy with that, let's go ahead and select all of these, go to the Pathfinder tool and unite them. Now let's add a gradient to this. So select New Text, go to the Gradient panel here, and we're just going to add a white color at the bottom. Let's add a new swatch here. And for this swatch here, let's go ahead and create a new color. So let's add let's go ahead and add just a light gray here, and then the same light gray at the top. And then let's switch this around so that it's -90, so that the bottom is gray and the top is white. And then once you've done that, let's go back to the appearance panel here. And let's go ahead and add a new stroke. And for this, let's go ahead and make the stroke 3 points like that. And now let's add a shadow to our text. So going over to the appearance panel here, let's go ahead and add a new fill. Let's drag the new fill at the bottom, making sure it's behind our contents and making sure that the fill is set to black. We're going to go to Effects, Distort and Transform, and we're going to move this horizontally by 1 pixel and vertically by 1 pixel. And then we're going to change the copies to 10. Click OK. And you can see we've now got a shadow behind our perk text. And we can change the direction of the shadow as well. So if we go back to transform again, we can change this instead of 1 to -2. And there you go. You can see that it's changed in that direction there. So let's go ahead and change this to -1 just to make the shadow a little bit smaller. And just like that, we've captured a piece of 90s nostalgia right here in Illustrator. I want to give a huge shout out to the incredibly talented Diana Toma, who penned the written version of this Central Perk logo tutorial. Diana's detailed guide complements what we've explored today, providing yet another layer of insight into bringing this iconic logo to life. You can find the link to her comprehensive written tutorial in the description below. If you've enjoyed this journey through design and nostalgia, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more art adventures. Every like, share, and comment really helps support the channel and keeps the creativity flowing. Have fun, and I'll see you next time.